The interior of the Ravager hive ship was a nightmare made real. Sergeant Jiwoo led her team through organic corridors that pulsed with dying bioluminescence. The walls were made of something between flesh and chitin. The air smelled like death and rot. Her armor's sensors showed high concentrations of organic compounds that would be toxic to humans without protection. "Stay alert," she ordered her Marines. "The ship is dying, but there might still be survivors." They had boarded the crippled hive ship an hour after the nuclear detonation. The vessel was breaking apart slowly, venting atmosphere and spinning in a decaying orbit. But Captain Daewon had ordered an inspection before they finished it off completely. He wanted to understand what they were dealing with. They found bodies. Thousands of Ravager drones killed when the hive mind collapsed. But as they moved deeper into the ship, toward what sensors identified as a large central chamber, they found something else. "Contact ahead," one Marine called out. "Big contact, moving." The team raised their weapons, advancing carefully. The chamber opened before them, massive and cathedral-like, with organic pillars supporting a ceiling hundreds of meters above. And in the center, surrounded by dead attendants, was the Queen. She was enormous, 20 meters long, her armored body covered in scars from countless battles. Her head turned toward them, multiple eyes focusing on the human soldiers. When she spoke, it wasn't in words, but in vibrations that their armor's computer struggled to translate. "You killed my children." Jiwoo held up a fist, stopping her team from firing. She stared at the massive creature and saw something she hadn't expected. Not mindless hunger, not simple aggression, but intelligence, awareness, and terrible, overwhelming grief. "You attacked innocent people," Jiwoo said, her armor translating. "You gave us no choice. Hungry." The Queen's voice was weak, dying. "Always hungry, no food. Stars grew cold. Worlds died. My people, starving, I led them, searching, found soft things, fed my children. But you are not soft. You are hard, like the old days, like the war makers from before." Jiwoo felt her finger on the trigger. One shot would end this, finish the job. The Queen was dying anyway, her body damaged beyond recovery by the nuclear blast, but something made her pause. "Stand down," she ordered her Marines. "Lower your weapons, Sergeant," one of them questioned. "I said lower them." Jiwoo approached the Queen close enough to see her mandibles moving weakly. "How long have your people been starving?" "Long. Centuries. We found food worlds, but they were defended, protected. We tried to communicate, but nobody understood. Thought we were monsters. Maybe we are, but we were just hungry." The Queen's eyes began to dim. Jiwoo stood there watching a dying mother mourn her children. It would be easy to hate the Ravagers. They had killed millions, destroyed worlds. But looking at the Queen, she saw something more complicated. A tragedy with no heroes. Just different species trying to survive. "Your people?" the Queen asked. "Deathworlders? Survival species?" "Yes." "Then you can understand. Doing what must be done to survive." The Queen's voice grew fainter. "I am glad my children fell to worthy opponents, not to soft things who could not appreciate the cost." The Queen died. Her massive body went still, her eyes darkening completely. Jiwoo stood in silence for a long moment, then keyed her radio. "Captain, we found the Queen. She's dead. But sir, I think we need to talk." Back on the Retribution, Captain Daewon listened to Jiwoo's report in his ready room. Commander Hana stood beside him, along with Engineer Bora and Chancellor Threen via video link. "They were starving," Jiwoo explained. "Their original food sources died out. They were desperate. That doesn't excuse what they did, but it explains it. The Ravagers have destroyed dozens of worlds," Threen said, his voice hard. "Billions have died because of them." "I know," Jiwoo said quietly. "I'm not saying we shouldn't have stopped them. I'm saying maybe there could have been another way. If someone had understood earlier. If someone had tried to communicate instead of just fighting or fleeing." Daewon leaned back in his chair. "Commander Hana, what's your assessment?" "The Queen is dead. The hive ship is destroyed. The remaining Ravagers are dormant without a leader. We can eliminate them or try something else." "Like what?" Threen asked. Engineer Bora spoke up. "I've been analyzing the Ravager biology. They're incredibly efficient at converting organic matter into usable nutrition. If we could find them a sustainable food source, Maybe protein synthesis or agricultural worlds that are uninhabited. They could survive without attacking populated planets. You want to save them? Threen's voice was shocked. After everything they've done? No, Daewon said carefully. We want to prevent this from happening again. The Ravagers attacked because they were desperate. How many other species out there are equally desperate? How many more wars could be prevented if someone actually tried to solve the underlying problems? Hana crossed her arms. That's a dangerous precedent, Captain. We can't save everyone. We can't fix every problem in the galaxy. No, Daewon agreed. But we can try. That's what makes us different. We don't just fight. We also think about what comes after. The discussion continued for hours. Eventually, they reached a decision. The dormant Ravagers would be transported to an uninhabited system, with several barren but organic-rich worlds. Engineer Bora would work with Velan scientists to establish protein synthesis facilities. The Ravagers would be monitored carefully. If they showed aggression again, the human fleet would return and finish the job. It was a compromise. Not perfect, but better than genocide. Later that night, Lyris found Tae-Yang in the observation deck. The pilot stood alone, watching Velis Prime rotate slowly below. She approached quietly. Couldn't sleep? She asked. Too much on my mind. Tae-Yang glanced at her. We lost 2 ships today. The destroyers Unity and Horizon. 437 crew total. Good people who came here to help strangers and never went home. I'm sorry. That's war. People die. We know that going in. But it still hurts. He looked out at the planet. We saved your world. Billions of Velans are alive because we came. But those 437 humans are dead. Was it worth it? Is any number of saved lives worth any number of lost lives? Lyris didn't have an answer. She just stood beside him, sharing the silence. My wingman died today. Tae-Yang continued. Fighter pilot named Minsu. We trained together for 2 years. He took a hit protecting an evacuation transport. His fighter exploded. I watched it happen and couldn't do anything to stop it. He saved lives. I know. That's what we tell ourselves. They died heroes. They died protecting others. It's all true. But they're still dead. And I'm still here, and I don't know if that's fair. Lyris reached out carefully and placed her crystalline hand on his arm. The gesture was awkward. Their species were so different, but he understood. Your friend would be proud of what you did today, she said. All of you. You came from nowhere and saved a world. That matters, does it? Yes, it does. To every person alive on my planet, to every child who will grow up because you fought. To me, Lyris looked up at him. We'll remember. We'll tell our children about the humans who came when we called, about the Deathworlders who were more than just weapons, who had mercy and compassion, who tried to save even their enemies. Tae-Yang smiled sadly. That's a nice thought. It's the truth. In the medical bay, Sergeant Jiwoo sat beside one of her wounded Marines. Private Chen was sedated, his shoulder injury severe but treatable. He would recover, but it would take months. You shouldn't have risked yourself for me, Sergeant, Chen had said before the sedation took effect. Yes, I should have, Jiwoo had replied. That's what we do. We protect each other. Now she sat in the quiet medical bay thinking about the Queen's final words. About species doing what they must to survive. About the cost of victory and the price of survival. They had won. Velis Prime was saved. The Ravagers were defeated. But Jiwoo felt no triumph. Just exhaustion and a deep sadness for all the death on both sides. Captain Daewon made his final log entry for the day. Mission log, Captain Daewon, UDC Retribution. Day 7 of the Velis Prime operation. The Ravager threat has been eliminated. Casualty report. 2 ships destroyed, 437 personnel killed, 116 wounded. Velan casualties are estimated in the millions, but billions survived. We did what we came to do. We answered the distress call. But I can't help wondering about all the distress calls we'll never hear. All the world's dying while no one listens. The galaxy is bigger than we imagined, and there's more suffering out there than we can ever address. But we have to try. That's what makes us human. Not our weapons or our technology or our ability to survive death worlds. It's our refusal to ignore someone crying for help. Even when it costs us, even when it hurts. We answered the call. And if another call comes tomorrow, we'll answer that one too. Because that's who we are. End log. On Velis Prime, Chancellor Threen stood in the capital city watching reconstruction begin. Human engineers worked beside Velan builders. Marine patrols kept order while Velan authorities reorganized. Two species so different working together. He thought about the distress call Lyris had sent. The message that went to the wrong coordinates and found the right people. They spoke casually about acceptable casualties and necessary sacrifices. They had words in their language for concepts. Captain Dewan stared at the holographic display showing the asteroid belt. Somewhere in that field of rocks and ice, hidden among the radiation signatures, was the Ravager hive ship. Kill it and the entire swarm would fall apart. The question was how. What are we looking at? He asked Engineer Bora, who stood beside him on the bridge. The hive ship is massive, probably 3 times the size of the Retribution. Heavily armored organic hull capable of regenerating damage. Standard weapons won't do enough damage fast enough. So we need something non-standard, Commander Hana said from her tactical station. What about the nuclear arsenal? We'd need multiple simultaneous impacts to overwhelm its healing capabilities, Bora calculated. And we'd have to get close enough to guarantee hits. The asteroid field will interfere with long-range targeting. Dewan thought for a long moment, an idea forming. It was risky. It was dangerous. It was the kind of plan that might get everyone killed. In other words, it was exactly the kind of plan that might work. Get me Chancellor Threen, he ordered. When the Velan leader appeared on screen, Dewan explained his idea. As he talked, he watched Threen's crystalline skin shift through colors, confusion, shock, and finally horror. You want to do what? Threen asked. Use Velas Prime's moon as bait. We rig it with nuclear devices and lure the hive ship close. When it gets within range, we detonate everything. The explosion should either destroy the hive ship or cripple it enough for us to finish it off. That's insane. If you miscalculate, you could destroy the moon. The debris would rain down on our planet for years. The tidal changes alone could kill millions. Yes, Dewan agreed. It's a huge risk. But doing nothing is also a risk. The Ravagers will keep coming. Eventually, they'll break through. This gives us a chance to end it in one strike. Threen closed his eyes, his telepathic senses reaching out across his world. Millions of minds, all terrified, all hoping for salvation. The humans had come to help, but could he trust them with his people's moon? With his world's future? Why are you asking my permission? Threen asked. You could just do it. Because it's your moon. Your world. Your people. I won't make that decision without your consent. Dewan leaned forward. Chancellor, I know we're strangers. I know we're scary. But I promise you, we're here to help, not hurt. Trust me. Threen looked at the human captain, studied those predator eyes, and saw something he hadn't expected. Dewan was just as scared as he was, just as uncertain. But the human was choosing to act anyway, choosing to risk everything on a desperate plan because the alternative was watching innocents die. Do it, Threen said quietly. But please, don't miss, the next 12 hours were chaos. Engineer Bora led teams to the moon, placing nuclear devices in carefully calculated positions. They had 20 warheads from the fleet's arsenal, enough to crack a planet if used correctly. Bora ran the calculations 100 times, checking and rechecking. One mistake and Velas Prime was doomed. Pilot Taeyang helped with the operation, ferrying supplies and personnel. On his 5th trip, he met Lyris in the shuttle bay. The young Velan was delivering data from her scientists to the human teams. You look exhausted, Lyris said, her translator converting her concern into words he could understand. Been flying for 26 hours straight? Taeyang admitted, rubbing his eyes. But I'll sleep when this is over. How do you do it? Humans need rest, don't you? We do, but we can push through when we have to. It's one of our evolutionary advantages. We're persistence hunters. We can keep going when other species would collapse. He smiled at her. Don't worry. I'm tougher than I look, Lyris studied him. The human was clearly exhausted, his eyes bloodshot and his movements slower than before, but he kept working. They all did. The Marines on the surface had been fighting for over 30 hours. The bridge crew had been on duty continuously since arriving. They just kept going. Your species is strange, Lyris said. You push yourselves to the breaking point. You risk everything. Why? Because someone has to, Taeyang said simply. And we're here, so it might as well be us. On the surface, Sergeant Jiwoo received new orders. Fall back to the evacuation zones and prepare for final transport. The moon operation was beginning, and they needed all non-essential personnel off the planet in case something went wrong. You heard the captain? She told her Marines. Start pulling back. But keep the civilians covered. Nobody gets left behind." As they withdrew through the ruined city, a Ravager ambush caught them. 20 insect soldiers burst from a collapsed building, cutting off the Marines' retreat. Jiwoo's team opened fire immediately, but the Ravagers kept coming. One of them reached Private Chen, its claw slashing through his armor and cutting deep into his shoulder. The Marine fell, bleeding badly. "Chen's down," someone shouted. Jiwoo moved without thinking, putting herself between the wounded soldier and the attacking Ravagers. Her armor's weapons roared, cutting down 3 insects, but more kept coming. "Get Chen out of here," she ordered. "Move!" 2 Marines grabbed their wounded comrade and ran while Jiwoo and the rest of the squad held the line. It was brutal close-range combat, the kind of fighting humans had learned over thousands of years of warfare, the kind of fighting they were horrifyingly good at. When the last Ravager fell, Jiwoo checked her squad. 3 wounded, including Chen, but alive. "All alive. Sergeant, why did you do that?" one of the younger Marines asked. "Risk yourself for 1 soldier?" "Because that's the job," Jiwoo said. "We protect people. All people. Including each other. Now let's get back to the transport." In orbit, the trap was set. The moon now held 20 nuclear devices, all linked to a central detonator on the Retribution. The human fleet had positioned itself in a fake retreat pattern, leading away from Velis Prime. And on carefully masked sensors, they tracked the bait, 3 evacuation transports that appeared to be fleeing the system. The transports were actually empty drones, controlled remotely. But the Ravagers didn't know that. "Hive ship is moving," Hana reported from her station. "It's taking the bait, heading toward the moon." Daewon watched the display. The massive organic vessel emerged from the asteroid field, moving with surprising speed. It was hunting what it thought were the last fleeing Velans. Instead, it was swimming toward its death. "Distance to moon?" Daewon asked, closing. 500 kilometers. 400. 300. The Hive ship's sensors must have detected something because it began to slow. Too late. 200 kilometers. Optimal detonation range. "Fire," Daewon ordered. Engineer Bora pressed the detonation trigger. 20 nuclear warheads exploded simultaneously. The moon's surface erupted in a sphere of expanding energy that engulfed the Hive ship. The explosion was calculated perfectly, strong enough to devastate the organic vessel but not enough to shatter the moon itself. The surface cracked and whole sections of the crust vaporized, but the moon held together. The Hive ship didn't. The massive vessel was caught in the center of the blast. Its organic armor, designed to regenerate from normal weapons fire, couldn't handle the overwhelming nuclear fire. The hull split open. Internal sections exploded. "The ship began to break apart. Direct hit," Hana shouted. "The Hive ship is destroyed." All across the system, something incredible happened. The Ravager ship stopped moving. Without the Hive ship's coordination, the swarm mind collapsed. Individual vessels drifted aimlessly. The ground forces stopped attacking and simply stood still, like puppets with cut strings. "It worked," Bora whispered, staring at the displays in disbelief. "It actually worked." Daewon allowed himself a small smile. "Clean up the remaining Ravagers. Then let's check on the moon. Make sure it's stable." The battle was over. Velis Prime was saved. On the planet's surface, the Velans emerged from their shelters to see the Ravager soldiers standing motionless. Human Marines moved through the cities, eliminating the dormant threats. It was grim work, but necessary. Chancellor Threen stood in the capital, watching human soldiers protect his people. He saw Jiwoo's Marines carefully evacuating civilians from damaged buildings. He saw Taeyang's fighter squadron escorting transports back from orbit. He saw engineers helping Velan workers restore damaged systems. The Deathworlders had come, and they had saved everything. Lyris found Taeyang in the medical bay, finally getting his exhaustion treated. She approached his bed carefully. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. For coming, for fighting, for caring about people you'd never met." Taeyang looked at her with tired eyes. "You sent an SOS," we answered. "That's what humans do. We hear someone calling for help and we come running, even if it takes us across the galaxy. Even if it risks everything, because some things are worth the risk. Like strangers? Like anyone who needs help," Taeyang said. "That's what makes us human. Not our weapons or our ships or our ability to survive Deathworlds. It's our choice to help, to protect, to care. That's the best part of humanity." Lyris felt her crystalline skin shift to a warm blue, the Velan color of gratitude and affection. These humans were terrifying and wonderful in equal measure. They had come from nowhere, asked nothing in return, and saved her world. She thought about the distress call that had gone to the wrong coordinates. The message that had reached Earth instead of T. The first thing Lyris noticed about humans was their eyes. She stood in the Retribution's conference room, brought aboard by shuttle after the initial fighting had pushed the Ravagers back from the orbital zone. Across the table sat Commander Hana, and those eyes, forward-facing, dark, focused, tracked every movement Lyris made. Predator eyes. "Thank you for coming," Hana said through the translator device. "We need to share information if we're going to save your world." Lyris tried to keep her fear under control. The humans had saved 17 evacuation transports. They had destroyed over 200 Ravager ships, but they were still terrifying. Every movement Hana made was efficient and controlled, like a hunter waiting to strike. "Of course," Lyris said, her voice shaking slightly. "What do you need to know?" "Everything. Tell me about your people, your capabilities, and these Ravagers. Start from the beginning," so Lyris explained. The Velans were a peaceful civilization, 3,000 years old. They had joined the Galactic Cooperative 200 years ago, connecting with dozens of other peaceful species. They explored, they traded, they created art and mathematics. They had no weapons because they had never needed weapons. Then the Ravagers came. "They appeared 6 days ago," Lyris said. "We tried to communicate, but they don't respond to any signals. They just attack. They land on worlds and consume everything living. Our defense fleet tried to fight them, but we had nothing that could stop them." Hana listened carefully, asking questions that revealed a tactical mind. "How many Ravagers? What were their capabilities? What was their apparent strategy?" With each answer, Lyris saw the human's expression grow harder. "You sent the distress call?" Hana asked. "Yes, to our allies in the cooperative, but the signal was damaged and went to you instead. I don't understand how. Your world isn't on any of our star charts." "That's because humans only achieved faster-than-light travel 3 years ago," Hana explained. "We're new to the galaxy, very new. You're actually the first peaceful aliens we've met." Lyris felt her crystalline skin shift to a shocked blue color. "The first? But you fight like you've been doing this for centuries. Your ships, your weapons, your tactics, they're so advanced." Hana's expression changed to something that might have been a sad smile. "We've been fighting for centuries, just not in space. Humans spent 10,000 years fighting each other on Earth. We got very good at it. 3 years ago, we had our first contact with hostile alien machines. That taught us we needed to be ready. So we built these ships, trained these soldiers, prepared for the next threat. Your world must be a nightmare," Lyris whispered, unable to stop herself. "Yes," Hana said simply. "Earth is a death world. High gravity, dangerous weather, toxic to most species, full of predators. Everything on our planet tried to kill us, so we learned to kill back. We evolved to be survivors, but that's not all we are. We're also protectors. When we heard your distress call, we came. That's what humans do." Over the next hours, Lyris learned more about humans, and each revelation was more shocking than the last. They could survive radiation that would sterilize Velans. They could function on minimal sleep for days. They had redundant organs. If one failed, others could compensate. They healed from injuries that would be fatal to her people and their weapons. Lyris looked at the tactical displays showing human armaments and felt sick. Nuclear weapons, antimatter missiles, kinetic impactors that could crack planets. Humans had spent thousands of years developing better ways to kill each other, and now they turned those weapons on the Ravagers. "I need to introduce you to Chancellor Threen," Lyris said finally. "He should hear this directly from you." The meeting between Threen and Captain Daewon happened via video link, Threen still on the planet's surface while Daewon commanded from orbit. The old Velan leader looked at the human captain and saw something he hadn't expected: exhaustion and concern in equal measure. "Captain, my people owe you a debt we cannot repay," Threen began. "You came to help us without knowing anything about us." "Why?" Daewon thought for a moment before answering. "Because you asked for help. Because someone needed to. On Earth we have a saying, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. We heard you calling. We came, it's that simple. But at what cost? You've lost ships, soldiers. For a people you don't know." "Yes. And I'd do it again." Daewon leaned forward. "Chancellor, I'm going to be honest with you. Humans are dangerous. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. We're aggressive, violent, and way too comfortable with risk. But we're also capable of great compassion. We protect those who can't protect themselves. That's part of being human, too. Threen felt his telepathic senses reach out, trying to understand this strange being. He couldn't read human minds. Their thoughts were too different, too fast and chaotic. But he could sense emotion. And what he felt from day one was genuine. This human meant every word. "What do you need from us?" Threen asked. "Information. We need to find the Ravager hive ship. Kill that and the rest of the swarm dies. Your people are scientists and mathematicians. Help us find it." On the planet's surface, Sergeant Jiwoo and her Marines had established a defensive perimeter around an evacuation zone. Thousands of Velans crowded into the area, waiting for transport to orbit. The Marines stood guard, their powered armor making them look like metal giants. A young Velan child approached Jiwoo, holding something in her small, crystalline hands. Through the translator, the child's voice came through as curious rather than afraid. "Are you a robot?" Jiwoo knelt down, her armor servo motors whining. Her helmet retracted, showing her face. The child stared at the human features. The dark eyes, the tan skin, the teeth visible when Jiwoo smiled. "No, I'm a human. My name is Jiwoo." "What's yours, Prella? Are you here to save us?" "Yes, that's exactly why we're here. My mother says you're from a death world. That everything on your planet is dangerous." Jiwoo nodded. "That's true. Earth is a hard place. But it made us strong. Strong enough to protect people like you." Another Marine approached, carrying medical supplies. "Sergeant, the Velan doctors are asking for help. They've got wounded civilians, but their bodies can't handle the pain like ours can. They need something to help." Jiwoo pulled out a medical kit from her armor's storage. Human pain medications carefully dosed for Velan physiology based on scans engineer Bora had provided. It wasn't perfect, but it would help. She handed it to the approaching Velan doctor, who took it with trembling hands. "Thank you. I don't understand why you're helping us. We're strangers to you. You needed help. That's all the reason we need." In space, pilot Tae Yang was back in his fighter, flying patrol around the evacuation ships. His squadron had been in continuous combat for 16 hours. They were exhausted, running low on ammunition, and still they kept flying. "Phoenix 1, this is Phoenix 7. I've got multiple bogies on intercept course with Transport Group 3. "Copy that, 7. All units, form up on me. Let's keep these civilians safe." Tae Yang pushed his fighter toward the threat, his body protesting the acceleration. Humans could handle high G-forces better than most species, but there were still limits. He was approaching his. But those transports held families, children, people who just wanted to live. He could fly a little longer. The dogfight was brutal. Ravager fighters swarmed the human squadron, trying to break through to the transports. Tae Yang's wingman took damage, trailing atmosphere. "I'm hit," the pilot called. "Losing power." "Fall back to the Retribution," Tae Yang ordered. "I've got your position covered." He put his fighter between the damaged ship and the Ravagers, drawing their fire. His shields took hit after hit, dropping to critical levels, but the transports made it past. The families were safe. Back on the Retribution, Engineer Bora worked alongside Velan scientists in a makeshift laboratory. She was 32 years old, brilliant, and focused entirely on the problem in front of her. "These Ravager ships are organic," she explained to the Velan researcher beside her. "But they still need to communicate with each other somehow. There has to be a central node, a hive ship, coordinating everything." The Velan, an old scientist named Turn, manipulated holographic data displays. "If we could scan for concentrated biological signals, we might find it. But the scanning range needed would require massive computational power." "How massive?" Turn showed her the calculations. Bora smiled. "That's nothing. Human computers are built to handle chaos. We'll run the calculations. You just tell us what to look for." Together, the human and Velan worked through the night. Bora found herself impressed by Velan intelligence. They thought differently than humans, more holistically, seeing patterns where humans saw individual data points. Combined with human processing power and aggressive problem-solving, they made a formidable team. "I have it," Turn said suddenly. "The hive ship. It's hiding in your system's asteroid belt, masked by the radiation from the larger asteroids." Bora immediately sent the information to Captain Daewon. "Captain, we found it. Now we just need to kill it." "Working on that now," Daewon responded. "Good work, Bora." Chancellor Threen watched the humans work. studied their methods, and slowly began to understand. These Deathworlders were terrifying, yes. They wielded weapons that could destroy worlds. The jump from Earth space to Velen territory took 18 hours. Captain Daewon spent most of that time reviewing what little information they had about the distress signal. It wasn't much. A species called the Velens, a threat called the Ravagers, a planet dying while its people begged for help. Coming out of jump in 30 seconds, the navigation officer announced, "All ships reporting ready." Daewon stood on the bridge of the Retribution, his crew around him. Commander Hana at Tactical, Chief Engineer Bora monitoring the ship's systems, and on the flight deck below, pilot Tae Yang waited in his fighter, ready to launch. Marine Sergeant Jiwoo and her team were already in their powered armor, preparing for whatever they might find. All ships, weapons hot, shields maximum. We don't know what we're jumping into, so be ready for anything. The ship shuddered as it dropped back into normal space. The view screens lit up, showing them the Velis system. For a moment, nobody spoke. They just stared. "My God," Hana whispered. Space was full of debris. Shattered ships, broken stations, and pieces of things that might have once been buildings or satellites floated everywhere. And moving through this graveyard were the Ravagers. Hundreds of organic ships, each one massive and covered in armored plates that looked like insect shells. They moved like living things because they were living things, flowing toward a blue-green planet that hung in space like a jewel. "Scanning," Hana said, her voice tight. "I'm reading life signs on the planet. Billions of them. But I'm also reading Ravager landing craft in the atmosphere. Sir, they're already attacking the surface." Daewon's jaw clenched. They weren't too late yet, but they were close. "Very close, Captain, picking up a distress signal. Audio only. It's weak." The communications officer played it through the speakers, a female voice speaking in a language the computer translated in real time. "Anyone receiving this transmission, Velis Prime is under attack. Our defenses are gone. The Ravagers are landing. We need help. Please, anyone. We need help." The voice repeated the same message over and over. Young. Terrified. Alone. "Get me a firing solution on that nearest group of Ravager ships," Daewon ordered. "The ones attacking those evacuation transports." "Sir, we don't know if the Velens are friendly," Hana said carefully. "We don't know anything about this situation. Protocol says we should observe, and protocol can wait. I'm watching civilians getting slaughtered. Target those ships now." Hana hesitated for only a second, then her fingers flew across her console. "Targeting solutions locked. All 5 ships ready to fire." Fire. The Retribution and its 4 sister ships opened up with everything they had. Railguns that fired metal slugs at incredible speeds. Missile batteries launching nuclear-tipped torpedoes. Energy weapons that could cut through armor like paper. The humans had spent 3 years preparing for hostile aliens after their first encounter. Now they had found them. The Ravager ships never saw it coming. They were busy chasing the slow evacuation transports, easy prey that couldn't fight back. The first salvo tore through 6 Ravager vessels, ripping them apart in explosions that lit up space. The second salvo destroyed 8 more. "They're breaking off the attack," Hana reported. "The evacuation transports are moving away. And the Ravagers are regrouping." "Sir, they're turning toward us." "Good," Daewon said coldly. "Let them come. Launch fighters. All squadrons." On the flight deck, Tae Yang heard the launch order and grinned inside his helmet. He was 28 years old and had been flying since he was 17. People called him reckless. He called it confident. "Phoenix Squadron, this is Phoenix 1, time to introduce ourselves to the neighborhood. Stay tight and watch your scans." His fighter launched from the Retribution's bay, followed by 11 others. Around him, the other ships launched their own squadrons. 60 human fighters suddenly filled the space around the fleet. The Ravagers came at them like a swarm. Hundreds of organic fighter craft that moved through space with unsettling grace. They were built for speed and numbers, overwhelming prey through sheer quantity. They had never fought humans before. Taeyang pushed his fighter into a dive that would have killed most alien species. Humans could handle high G-forces better than most. Their death world had prepared them for that. He pulled 12 Gs in a turn, his flight suit squeezing his body to keep blood flowing to his brain, and came up behind a group of Ravager fighters. Fox 2, he called, launching missiles. The Ravagers tried to evade, but human missiles were fast and smart. 3 organic fighters exploded. All around him, the battle erupted. Human fighters moved in patterns that looked impossible. pulling maneuvers that should tear ships apart. The Ravagers were fast, but humans were faster. The Ravagers were numerous, but humans were precise. On Velis Prime, Chancellor Threen stood in the command center, watching the impossible unfold on his screens. New ships had appeared. Unknown ships. And they were attacking the Ravagers. Who are they? Someone asked. I don't know, Threen admitted. But they're saving our evacuation transports. Get me a scan of those ships. I want to know what we're dealing with. The scans came back and made no sense. The readings showed ships from a world with gravity nearly twice that of Velis Prime. A world with dangerous radiation levels. A world with an atmosphere that would poison most species. A death world. Chancellor, we're receiving a communication request from the lead ship. Accept it. The screen flickered, showing a human face for the first time. Captain Day-Wan looked tired but determined. The translator worked, turning his words into Velan language. This is Captain Day-Wan of the United Defense Command ship Retribution. We received your distress call. We're here to help. Tell your evacuation ships to make for these coordinates. We'll cover their retreat. Threen stared at the alien face. The biped had forward-facing eyes. Predator eyes. Its teeth, visible when it spoke, were designed for tearing meat. Every instinct told him to be afraid of this creature, but this creature had come to help. Thank you, Threen said simply. We are in your debt. But I must warn you, the Ravagers are without number. They will overwhelm you as they overwhelmed us. Day-Wan smiled. It wasn't a friendly expression. Let them try. We're not easy to kill. On the surface of Velis Prime in the capital city's defense center, Sergeant Ji-Woo received her orders. The Ravagers had landed in 3 cities. One of them was the capital. There were still civilians trapped there, unable to reach the evacuation points. Marines were going down. Combat drop in 5 minutes. Mission is simple. Protect the civilians and kill anything with more than 4 legs. Her squad checked their weapons. 40 Marines in powered armor, each one carrying enough firepower to level a building. They loaded into drop pods, small armored capsules designed to punch through atmosphere and put soldiers exactly where they needed to be. Hang on to your teeth, Ji-Woo said. This is going to be rough. The pods launched from the Retribution, screaming down through Velis Prime's atmosphere like meteors. Inside, Ji-Woo felt the crushing force of deceleration, but her armor took most of it. Humans could survive forces that would kill most aliens. It was one of the advantages of evolving on a high-gravity death world. The pod hit the ground hard, and the door blew open. Ji-Woo stepped out into chaos. The Velan capital was beautiful. Crystalline towers that caught the light, streets paved with smooth stone, gardens everywhere. But it was also dying. Ravager soldiers, each one the size of a car, were tearing through buildings. The Velans ran from them, their fragile bodies no match for the armored insects. Open fire. The Marines' weapons roared. Explosive rounds designed to penetrate armor. Energy weapons that could cut through steel. The Ravagers, used to prey that couldn't fight back, suddenly found themselves under attack from something worse than them. Ji-Woo saw a Ravager charging at a group of Velan children. She moved to intercept, her powered armor letting her run at 40 miles per hour. She hit the insect like a truck, her armored fist punching through its shell. The creature died without knowing what killed it. Building 12, heavy contact, one of her Marines called. On my way, Ji-Woo responded, already moving. This was what humans did. This was what they were good at. When the innocent needed protection, when the weak needed defending, humans answered the call, even if it meant fighting monsters on an alien world far from home. In orbit, the battle continued. The Ravagers kept coming, but so did the humans. They fought with a fury that shocked the watching Velans. These Deathworlders didn't retreat. They didn't hesitate. They just fought, protecting people they had never met, on a world they had just discovered, and slowly, impossibly, the tide began to turn. The alarm screams filled every corner of the Velan command center. Lyris pressed her crystalline hands against the communication console, her fingers shaking as another explosion lit up the viewing screens. Outside in the black void of space, ships were dying. Her people were dying. How many evacuation transports made it out? Chancellor Threen's voice cut through the chaos. The old leader stood at the center of the room, his translucent skin flickering with distress colors, deep purples and reds that every Velan recognized as fear. 17 transports, Chancellor. But the Ravagers destroyed 8 more before they could break orbit. The tactical officer's voice cracked. They were not warriors. The Velans had never been warriors. For 3,000 years, their civilization had known only peace. Lyris watched the screens as another defense platform exploded. The Ravagers were unlike anything in the known galaxy. Massive organic ships covered in chitinous armor, moving through space like insects through air. They didn't negotiate. They didn't communicate. They simply consumed. Planets, ships, stations, everything organic became food for their endless hunger. The defense fleet? Threen asked, though everyone already knew the answer. Gone, Chancellor. All 37 ships. They fought, but the tactical officer couldn't finish. How could they fight? The Velan ships were built for exploration and trade, not war. Their weapons were mining lasers and industrial cutters, useless against the Ravager swarm. Threen closed his eyes. His telepathic sense reached out across the planet below, touching millions of minds. Fear. Panic. Parents holding children. Families huddled in shelters that wouldn't save them when the Ravagers came. The insects didn't use weapons. They landed and consumed everything living, leaving dead rocks behind. Send the message, Threen said quietly. Lyris turned to her console. Her training had never prepared her for this moment. She was 20 cycles old, barely an adult by Velan standards. She had taken this job because she loved languages, loved the idea of speaking to distant civilizations. She never imagined she would be the one to send her world's final cry for help. Her fingers moved across the quantum relay controls. The system was ancient, built by the Galactic Cooperative 200 years ago when Velis Prime joined the Alliance. It connected to every member world, creating an instant communication network across thousands of light years. This is Velis Prime, Lyris spoke into the transmitter, her voice steady despite her terror. We are under attack by the Ravager swarm. Our defenses have fallen. We request immediate military assistance under Treaty Article 7. Repeat, this is an Article 7 emergency. Velis Prime is falling. Please respond. She sent the message and waited. The quantum relay showed green. Transmission successful. Help would come. The cooperative had defense fleets. Strong species who had fought wars, who understood violence. They would come and save Velis Prime. Seconds passed. Then minutes. Chancellor, something is wrong with the relay. Lyris stared at her instruments in confusion. The signal bounced. I don't understand. It should have gone to Cooperative Command Central, but the routing shows. She trailed off, reading the impossible data. Shows what? Threen moved to her station. It went somewhere else. The Ravager interference created a spatial distortion, and the quantum signal reflected off it. The message went to, she checked the coordinates 3 times, to an uncharted region, Sector 127B. There's nothing there according to our star charts. Resend to the correct coordinates, Threen ordered. Lyris tried. The console flashed red. The relay is damaged, Chancellor. That was our only transmission. We can't send another. Silence fell over the command center. Outside, more explosions painted the darkness with fire. The Ravagers were breaking through the final orbital defenses. Soon they would reach the planet. Soon everything would end. Then we can only hope that someone received our message, Threen said, and that they choose to help us. Far across the galaxy, in a solar system the Velans had never seen, alarms rang on Earth's orbital defense station. The night crew scrambled to their posts, confused by the sudden activation of the experimental quantum receiver. What is that? Commander Hana demanded, striding into the communications room. She was 40 years old with short black hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Why is the receiver active? Unknown, Commander. We just picked up a signal. It's not one of ours. The technician's fingers flew across his keyboard. It's alien. Definitely alien. Listen, he played the message. The words came through garbled at first, then the translation software kicked in. A female voice, young and frightened, speaking words that made every person in the room freeze. This is Velis Prime. We are under attack. Hana listened to the complete message twice. Her mind raced through protocols, procedures, and possibilities. This was first contact. Humanity had been looking for other intelligent life for centuries, and now here it was. But not the way anyone had imagined. Not peaceful exploration or careful diplomatic exchanges, just a desperate cry for help. Get me Captain Day One, she ordered. Right now. 20 minutes later, Captain Day One stood in the communications room, listening to the message for the 4th time. He was a tall man, 35 years old, with tired eyes and a reputation for making hard decisions. He commanded the UDC Retribution, Earth's newest warship, built after humanity's first encounter with hostile alien machines 3 years ago. That encounter had taught humanity a crucial lesson. The galaxy was not safe. Can we trace the signal? He asked. Yes, sir. We have coordinates. It's far, but within our jump range, barely. Day One thought for a long moment. Going to these coordinates meant taking 5 ships into unknown space. It could be a trap. It could be a misunderstanding. It could be anything. But it could also be exactly what it sounded like. Someone dying while no one helped. Wake up the fleet, he said. We leave in 2 hours. Sir, we haven't received authorization from Earth Command, Hana protested. Daewon smiled grimly. Then it's lucky we'll be too far away to receive their orders telling us not to go. Someone sent an SOS, we're going to answer it. That's what humans do. On Velis Prime, Lyra stood at her console as the world burned outside. She had sent the message. She had done her duty. But no response had come. The cooperative wasn't coming. No one was coming. She thought about her family in the southern continent. Her parents, her younger brother. She wondered if they were still alive, or if the Ravagers had already reached them. The screen showed the enemy landing craft descending through the atmosphere, hundreds of them, like a rain of death falling on her world. In hours, maybe less, it would all be over. The Velans would be gone, just another extinct species in a galaxy that didn't care. She didn't know that her message had reached someone. She didn't know that 5 ships were already jumping through space, racing toward her coordinates. She didn't know that the Deathworlders were coming. All she knew was fear and the certain knowledge that her world was ending.